There's a rhythm in history that has shattered the world's most powerful governments. And right now, that rhythm is playing again. In 2025, the United States is moving step by step through the same sequence that ended 3 empires before. France, Russia, and Cuba. Each believed it was too powerful to fall. Each was wrong. In 1789, France was Europe's shining crown, rich, cultured, unmatched. Within 5 years, its king was dead, and the nation drowned in the terror, a wave of violence that took 40,000 lives. In 1917, Russia's Tsar ruled 180 million people, fresh from World War I. When the empire collapsed in 8 months, the Tsar was executed, and the civil war that followed claimed 20 million more. In 1959, Cuba was a thriving island filled with tourists and prosperity. Within 2 years, Fidel Castro's revolution had nationalized everything, turning the country into a dictatorship that lasted more than half a century. 3 revolutions, 3 different worlds, yet one identical pattern. Every time, those in power believed their system was too strong to fail, too civilized, too stable, too modern. Every time, they were wrong. And now, the same warning lights are flashing across the United States. Inequality, corruption, collapsing trust, and a growing anger that no one in power seems able to contain. We are not approaching the pattern. We are already in it. Stage 4. And if history holds, stage 5 and 6 come fast. This is how revolutions begin, how they spread, and why those who rule never see them coming. But before understanding the pattern, we need to understand the truth of revolution itself. A revolution is not a protest or a riot. It is not a change of party or policy. A revolution is when the entire structure of society collapses and is replaced by something entirely new, something built from ashes. They do not begin because people are poor. Poverty has existed forever. They begin when people's expectations rise faster than their reality, when they believe they deserve more than they have, when the gap between the rich and everyone else grows too wide, and when faith in the system dies, when people stop believing that government, courts, or elections can fix their suffering. They turn to the only tool left, destruction. As John F. Kennedy warned, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. History has proven him right every single time. 3 centuries, 3 ideologies, 1 recurring pattern of collapse. To see it clearly, we go back to where it began, the mother of modern revolutions, France, 1789. At the end of the 18th century, France was the beating heart of Europe. Paris was the center of art, science, and diplomacy. The monarchy of King Louis XVI had stood for over 800 years, elegant, powerful, divine. But beneath the glittering surface of Versailles, decay had already begun. Stage 1. Extreme wealth inequality. The country's 27 million people were divided into 3 estates. The clergy, the first estate, owned 10% of the land and paid no taxes. The nobility, the second estate, owned a quarter of the land and paid almost none. The third estate, everyone else, bore the entire tax burden. 1.5% of the nation paid nothing. The remaining 98.5% paid everything. But it wasn't only taxes. Nobles lived under different laws. They hunted on peasant land, demanded free labor, and dined while the poor starved. When a poor harvest hit in 1788, bread prices doubled. Bread made up 90% of a peasant's daily budget. Suddenly, they could not eat. Meanwhile, the nobility threw lavish parties at Versailles, blind to the hunger outside their gates. Stage 2. Government corruption and incompetence. King Louis XVI was not cruel. He was weak. France was broke from constant wars, including the American Revolution. The state owed billions. Louis's answer was to borrow more, tax the poor, and change nothing. The clergy refused to pay. The nobles refused to pay. And when he tried to reform, the elites blocked him, preferring collapse over sacrifice. By 1789, France was on fire. The treasury was empty. Bread was unaffordable. And the king, desperate, summoned the Estates General, a meeting of the 3 estates that had not been called in 175 years. He believed it would help him raise new taxes. Instead, it opened the floodgates of revolution. Stage 3. the middle class destroyed and radicalized. The third estate, peasants, merchants, lawyers, the educated class, demanded fair representation. They wanted one vote per person, not one per estate, which gave the nobles and clergy an automatic advantage. The king refused. So on June 17, 1789, the Third Estate declared itself the National Assembly. They swore an oath never to disband until France had a constitution. That moment, when the educated middle class that sustains the system turns against it, is the tipping point, when those who once defended the structure begin to reject it. Revolution stops being a theory and becomes destiny. July 14, 1789, the spark ignited. A furious crowd in Paris stormed the Bastille, a fortress that symbolized royal power. The guards were slaughtered, their heads paraded through the streets. The revolution had begun. Stage 4. The collapse of faith in institutions. The monarchy, the church, and the courts, once sacred, lost all legitimacy. The National Assembly abolished feudalism, seized church property, and declared the rights of man. But hunger still ruled the streets. The moderates who led the revolution couldn't deliver real change, and desperation turned into rage. Stage 5. Radical takeover. The Jacobins, led by Robespierre, rose to power, promising justice through terror. They executed the king, the queen, and anyone accused of betraying the revolution. Guillotines filled the squares. It was no longer a movement for equality. It was a purge. Stage 6. The fall. By 1794, the revolution devoured itself. Robespierre was executed by his own allies. France had traded one tyranny for another, until Napoleon seized power and crowned himself emperor. The lesson was brutal and clear. Revolutions don't restore balance. They burn everything to the ground. Now, fast forward to 1917. Another empire, another pattern. Russia, vast, proud, and broken beneath its own weight. Stage 1. Inequality. The Tsar and his nobles lived in palaces. Peasants starved in the fields. Stage 2. Corruption. Nicholas II ruled by divine right, blind to his people's suffering. Stage 3. Disillusionment. World War I drained the country. Millions died. Soldiers had no food, no ammunition, and no faith left when the army itself turned against the Tsar. His empire, 3 centuries strong, collapsed overnight. What began as protests for bread became a full-blown revolution. Stage 4. Loss of faith in institutions. The Tsar was gone, but the new provisional government failed to deliver what people needed most: peace and food. The soldiers wanted to come home. The citizens wanted to eat. They got speeches instead. Into that vacuum stepped a man who promised both: Vladimir Lenin. Stage 5. The revolutionary movement gains mass support. His message was simple: peace, land, bread, end the war. Feed the people. Give them control. The Bolsheviks, small but organized, moved fast. October 1917. Within 24 hours, the old government was gone. Stage 6. Government overthrown. Russia's empire collapsed into chaos. A brutal civil war followed, red versus white, and 10 million people would die. Before Lenin's forces finally won, the old world was dead. What replaced it was worse. The revolution that promised equality created dictatorship. Now, another century passes, new island. Same pattern. Cuba, 1959. Stage 1. Inequality. Havana sparkled with casinos and luxury hotels, while rural Cuba lived in poverty. Stage 2. Corruption. Batista's regime ruled through bribes, torture, and blood. The police were for sale, the courts were puppets, and the people had no voice. Stage 3. Middle class radicalized. A young lawyer named Fidel Castro stood in a courtroom and declared, "History will absolve me." When he returned from exile, he gathered only a handful of rebels. Most were killed, but he refused to quit. Stage 4. Loss of faith. Batista's brutality turned citizens into revolutionaries. Soldiers deserted. The people stopped believing in the government, and that's when revolutions accelerate. By 1958, the army was collapsing. By 1959, Batista fled with millions in stolen wealth. Stage 5. The revolutionary movement victorious. Stage 6. Dictatorship reborn. Cuba's freedom was replaced with fear. The pattern had completed once again: 3 revolutions, 3 centuries, 3 nations that believed they were immune to collapse until they weren't. France in 1789, Russia in 1917, Cuba in 1959. Different continents, different ideologies, but one identical pattern. 6 stages that always end the same way. Stage 1, wealth inequality. Stage 2, corruption. Stage 3, the middle class loses faith. Stage 4, institutions crumble. Stage 5, radicals rise. Stage 6, chaos. Every time. And now, America, 2025. The wealth gap wider than ever. Government gridlocked and distrusted. The middle class drowning in debt. Faith in institutions fading fast. Left and right, both convinced the system can't be fixed. Stage 4 is already here, and history says Stage 5 comes fast. But this isn't about politics, it's about math. Every empire that reached this stage believed it was exceptional. Every one of them thought, it can't happen here, and every one of them was wrong. The spark that ignites revolutions is never predictable. It could be a protest, a crash, an election gone wrong. But once it starts, it doesn't stop. Violence spreads, trust collapses, the old order falls, and what replaces it is never freedom, it's control. Revolutions don't destroy systems because people hate oppression. They destroy systems because people lose hope. And when hope dies, order dies with it. History doesn't repeat, it warns. France ignored it. Russia ignored it. Cuba ignored it. Will America listen? Because in the end, revolutions don't begin with gunfire. They begin with silence, the moment people stop believing that anyone is coming to save them.